Good morning, everyone. Welcome. So happy you could join us today. What I have here is a display of this month's product of the month. I don't know if you're familiar because it's a new thing that Stampin' Up! Is doing, but they have a product each month that they promote. In this case, it's this paper. You get 3 sheets of each one and you get four, I think it was. It ends up being 12 sheets altogether, dual sided. So this is like the front and then the back, and then you have an extra one of the same. I just thought I'd give a few moments for people to sign in and kind of introduce you to the product of the month. These pastel-ish colors work very well for spring cards, and I thought it was a worthwhile investment to check out. Anyway, this is the product of the month. The way it works is when you order $75 worth of product, and that's before tax and shipping, then you are eligible to purchase the product of the month for $5. I thought it was a pretty good deal, and the colors were such that I thought I could make good use of it. That's just one of the many fun things about Stampin' Up! We have 4 cards today. And the first one we're going to do is this Pinwheel card. And I'm using paper that is not yet available. It's a online exclusive. Let's see if I can get this straightened out a little. There we go. Okay, it's an online exclusive paper. I have the information here. Okay, it's all right, let's get the names right. I don't want to tell you the wrong names. Okay, it's Garden Poetry. Actually, I bought the suite, and I'll bring that in real quick. It has all these different colors, and the suite comes with these little embellishments and this pretty ribbon, which matches perfectly with the purple. I haven't used it much yet, but I did get it. I thought it would be handy because it was a color I didn't have a lot of. The suite also has, this is called, get it going right way, Garden Textures. And what these are, they're foil papers, but they have a texture to them. They're not straight shiny. They've got a texture to them. And the colors go with the green, and then there's a blue in here. And then, of course, this burgundy go on to purple, fuchsia, I call it. And I used it for some of the cards. I did not have enough of one color to just do one color card. So we ended up doing 2. And here's the other version. So depending on which kit you got, you could have gotten the fuchsia purple one or this one. I wanted to point out a few things that I used the textured foil to add embellishments to the cards. And then this would be the signature panel. This one I did for birthday. This one I did for Mother's Day because I thought it was just, it's time to celebrate you. Happy Mother's Day. And I wanted to note that I put the Happy Mother's Day at a slant so it would fit the panel, but also the embellishments added. So it just looks really festive and nice. And then here's your signature message panel. That's what we'll be working on first. But I wanted to point out, this is a sneak peek because this paper is not yet available. It is an online exclusive, and it will be coming out in March. So then that's when it will be available to order. But it was so pretty. I couldn't wait to use it. Let me move this out of the way so we can move on. Now, one of the other, let's see, this too. Okay. One of the other papers I got recently. Oh, I forgot to show you one more thing. The Petals of Beauty. Oops, wrong one. Here it goes. The Petals of Beauty go with the flowers, and so I use those in die cutting out the flowers. These are the dies and these are the petals. For the yellow version, I did stamp it with the flower to give it a little more dimension, and then I die cut the smaller one to go over it, and then of course the sprig of leaves. Now, in creating the kit, in my case, because I was short, I'm going to leave these out here for a while I have room. Oh, let's see, Paradise Garden. This is another set that you can get that goes along with it. This has an embossing folder. It's a hybrid embossing folder. And what happens is it partially cuts out so that you have leaves that will pop up. I haven't played with it yet, so I can't tell you too much about it, but I'm hoping to get into it soon. Now, as I said before, I didn't have unlimited quantities of paper in the same color. So what I did was I picked for my card the blue and green paper with the flowers, and I used the blue foil for my layer. That shows up pretty in the lights. I like that. Okay, and then you have the four narrower strips here, and then four wider panels here. And you can kind of see the variance in the colors. And then this will be the card base. And I see that I set myself up to show you a few things. With this kit, you'll get 4 of these panels, which were die cut using the branching out dies. I really love this set. I've had so much fun with it. And then in the packet I have inside, I have the die cuts, and that includes, open this up, that includes a smaller die cut to use for the sentiment, okay? Plus the embellishments I die cut out of the blue foil. One more thing I wanted to point out, in this case, I prepared the panel and the die cut and the flower that would be going over. Let me get the panel of paper here. The paper, which would be going over the foil, which would be going over one of these side panels. That would all be neatly layered, not just helter-skelter like I've got it at the moment. That was one idea. But I was looking at it because of the green and because St. Patrick's Day is coming, we could have easily switched this out and did a St. Patrick's Day theme. Now, what I wanted to point out was I found some dies that cut out hearts, and you can get them in various sizes. I did a smaller one, but I like this size better. And, just team it up with sentiments that match your goal. And I just wanted to point that out so you had a chance to see there's other ideas. And I'm going to put these back in so I don't lose them because there's lots of little pieces. We don't want to lose our little pieces. Okay. This too. All right. Now, what I did on purpose is I did on yours, I scored your core for the pinwheel card. On mine, I did not because I wanted to show you the process. All right, I'm just moving things back so we have some order. And I'm going to move this over so we have some room. Now, I'm going to move this to the side. Oh, one more thing I wanted to point out. This is the paper, and I wanted to point out that you could, if you wish, add flowers to your paper and kind of create your own version of the designer series paper. If you prefer the I'm going to call it fuchsia. I think it's berry burst color. If you prefer to add a color that you want to use in the cardstock, that's one way of doing it. I made a card using this and it worked out great. Now to create the core, I have cut a piece that is like 4.5 by 4 1/4. Now the 4.5 sides is going to go up to the top. And I'm going to score it, which is the gray blade at the top here, not the black one, the gray blade. I'm going to score it at 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, and 4 inches. Okay, that leaves, if you can see it, a 1/2 inch tab here. And that's what we're going to use to tie it all together. You're going to fold on the score lines and burnish them so they're firm. I'm just doing mountain folds all the way around. And then when I was learning this card, here's something I didn't think of, but they pointed it out, is that when I put these together, usually I would think to put it on the inside, but this time we're putting it on the outside. The reason being, this tab will be covered over by designer series paper, whereas the inside will be visible as you look down on your pillar. So the dark color doesn't show it too much, but a lighter color would, where you could see, if there was a little join. So it kind of hides it very well. I used liquid glue, but I'm going to say this. You need to be careful not to exceed or not to have it leak out of the end. So I stayed a bit away from the edge. I gave myself some space for the glue to spread. The Tombow glue really holds pretty good. So most of the time I don't have a problem, except for like a card like this where you have all these pieces. You want to be careful about not letting the glue leak out and stick to everything. Okay. I'm going to take this. I'm actually going to fold it or hold it flat. Fold this over. Okay. And I'm going to hold it for a bit to have a chance for it to adhere. And then I'm going to take and I'm going to fold it the other way. Again, kind of burnishing, making sure that everything holds tight, that all blends together, folds well. Okay, this is the core of your card. Let's see, I had some more notes. I don't want to miss them. There we go. Okay. Yes, I did that. All right. Now, we're going to start. We've got the card base. We're going to take and start putting the panels on. Now, to do the panels, again, I'm using liquid glue, but what I'm doing is I'm going to apply the glue to the side of the pillar. Again, being careful not to get too close to the edge. You can be heavier in the middle because you want good adhesion, but you don't want it too close to the edge. You don't want it seeping. And when I put the panel on, my purpose is to line it up with this edge. So I'm feeling with my fingers to make sure I'm not going too far. And I also want it parallel to the top. It's important that you line it up to the edge, but not over the edge. Okay, I'm giving that a moment for the glue to take hold. And then I'm going to flip it and bend this back. I'm going to do the gluing again. Might as well keep this off now because I'm going to do a lot of gluing. I'm going to do the glue again. And what I'm doing is I'm bringing another panel in here. Again, want to line it up to that edge, but you also want to be sure that it is parallel top and bottom. And again, I use my fingers as a guide, but I also bend it to make sure that it's not blocking. And I also look at both sides to make sure that they're lined up. Okay, I'm going to give that another few minutes to adhere well. And then we'll move on to the next side. And the next side, same thing. Put the glue. Add the panel. Line it up with the edge. And you want to line it up parallel. And this is probably the most persnickety part of the card, is making sure that it's lined up properly, which is why I also test it against that. But I have to make sure that the glue holds well enough and is lined up. Okay. All right. Last panel. And here I'm checking again. Something's gone a little astray. Gotta watch those babies. Okay. All right. And then we do the same thing here. Add the glue. Add the panel. Line it up with the edge and top and bottom. Wants to be parallel. Okay. We'll let that dry for a moment. And then we're ready to go back to the beginning. Here's where it gets easier. We're going to take the narrow panels and we're going to add them to this side. In this case, I'm putting the glue on the back side of the paper. and then lining it up with a nice little border about 1/8 of an inch all around. Moving on to the next one. Now, when I was a kid, I was told that blue and green don't go together. That was a rule in school. Blue and green don't go together. And then one day when my sister came home with a project, she did it all in blue and green. And I thought, wow, that looks good. I thought blue and green didn't go together. So I think I've learned that it's not so much a particular color as the shade of the color that makes the difference. And these two blend nicely. Now, this is not directional paper, so in this case, I don't have to worry about what direction the paper is going because it's not directional. Okay. Moving to the next one. I'm moving kind of fast with this because this part is a simple part. The putting the foundation together is probably the most challenging part of the card. Okay, now we have all those panels there. Now we're going to start with these. Now, because I'm using both green and blue, all right, here we go. What I do is I put my two panels together first before I add them to the card. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it here, add the glue, 1/8 inch border around. That's kind of why I have a white background. It kind of helps me see better when you're working with darker colors. Okay, now for this, I'm going to get into my little goodies here. And this one, these two, okay. And then I need this. And I'm laying things out, to make sure I've got what I want. This will overlap that. The reason why I put this panel is because it kind of gets lost if you don't have a solid background. So I put the panel there, and then I can put this in here, and I can add the flowers. Now, when you're doing these for yourself, I want you to know that the overlay does not line up exactly. So you kind of place it where you like it. It's kind of artistic bend. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and glue this piece down. All right. And then I line it up, make sure it's even. Now I didn't prepare for that, but what I have is the silicone mat, and I have a detailed die. And working with detailed dies, I find for me to avoid excess glue, I'm using tacky glue. The reason why I'm using tacky glue is because when it dries clear, but it also doesn't stay sticky. The Tombow glue actually will dry clear, but it will stay sticky. And there are times when that is helpful. For instance, if I wanted to do this in advance, I could put little dots of glue on here and set it aside and let it dry, and then it would remain tacky and I could put it down and it would stick. In this case, I'm using the tacky glue, which dries. And what happens is when I'm using the silicone mat, I'm putting a pool of the glue on here that I'm going to work from. And if I were to use the Tombow, that pool, even though it dried, would remain sticky. And then if I set other things down on it, it would stick. So in this case, I'm picking up the glue. I'm putting this over here and I'm tapping it onto the back side of the leaves. Oops, I hope I did that right. Oh, I did it wrong. Oh, well. We'll have it go the other direction then. The way you know the backside is because the backside's rougher. My mistake. Okay. Same design. All right. Just have a different twist to it. Okay. Put this over here. It'll go this way. Let's see, I want that to stay within. So we're moving it down a little bit. Come on. Okay. Now we can add the flower, which isn't a problem because it's whole, except you don't want to have too much glue, which apparently my glue decided it wanted to be generous this time. And when that happens, you can take a piece of scratch paper and wipe the excess off. All right. I want it that way. Okay, and then here I'm back to using the sponge and glue. And I'm just tapping it on there. Now you could use a glue dot because you have a good center there. That's up to you. All right, now I'll determine how I want to place this. Okay. There we are. Now I've got one panel ready. But before I actually adhere it to the card, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay out the rest of my panels to determine what I like best. The easiest way is just to go ahead and apply the designer series paper to the foil layered panel. Now, mind you, in an earlier class, I talked about die cutting things out from pretty foils and stuff like that ahead of time. And that way you can get more use out of your foils. All right, there's one. Two. Let's get this in here. This needs to come down a little bit. Okay. Got a little weight on here. That helps the glue to lay flat and stick well. All right. Line it up. All right, now we're going to be doing these layers. And we have one more layer. Now, I guess I could talk a little bit about this. This was just a fancy die cut, kind of a roundish shape, but I felt like it was a change, so not everything was square. Like, for instance, we had the flower here. It's time to celebrate you. This would be the final piece there. This one could say happy birthday, or let's go this way. Let's go the blue this way. Time to celebrate you. Happy birthday. And then the final panel. Okay, now with the happy birthday, because it's at an angle, I'm inking it up. I'm using, shaded spruce, which is one of the colors that was listed for the paper. And then I'm going to go at an angle to set it down. Okay, and then once that's there, I can work with the embellishments I'm going to be using, which I'm bringing out now. Now, let me talk a little bit about this. What I did was I went on a hunt. I wanted to find some embellishments to add, floral type embellishments. This is coming from the Darling Detail set. It's a die. I suppose I could have used this bigger one, but I wanted smaller so we could work with it. And then this other one here actually came from a set, Thoughtful Moments Dies. It was like a Valentine's set, or a mini comment, actually, mini greeting set. But it had these little embellishments that we can use here. Now, you could do blue and green or whatever, but I just did the blue. Okay. All right. And then you're going to take your scissors and you're going to figure out where you want to snip. For instance, I can do a little snip there. And I can do a little embellishment down there if I wanted. I'm not sure I want that, though. Let's see. I think if I take the stem off, I'll like it better. All right. And then this one can fit here. Let's see. Can we go opposite? Yeah, I kind of like that. All right. I'm doing the layout. I'm figuring out, okay, how do I like this? How do I want it? Which appeals to me the most? I do this before I glue anything down. I'm going to take the stem off of this. And let's see. I think I like that way. I don't think I'm going to add the others. Okay. Once I have the idea of how I want to do it, I'll go ahead and glue the panels together. Again, avoiding the edge of the die cut. And then I'll be using more pooled glue Okay. And in the process, I lost the little piece I had. There it is. All right. I also wanted to point out, when I do this glue, I'll move it in locations where there isn't the other glue. That way you don't accidentally get glue on the front. Move this over here. Bring this down here where I can see better. Okay, that's one. I'm going to add these. Okay, that one I want to come down. Now, what I'm doing here is just basically an example. You may choose to place your embellishments differently. That's part of the fun. This is the part I miss of teaching live classes, because I love to see what you guys come up with. What I teach is a guide. It's not sent in cement. Let's get up here. But this little tip about sponging the glue is one of my favorites, because those little tiny pieces could really get messy. Okay, let's move this out of the way. And we're ready to put this on. Kind of center it. Again, I'm one of these people that really appreciates the opportunity to adjust while doing the placement. Okay. Now, the reason why I don't put these all on is because I like to look and see, do I like this combination? Do I like the layouts going? This will be our signature piece. So we will just put the embellishments to decorate it, but not take up too much space. And then I want the glue again. Okay. Now, something this small, that's where I like to use my tweezers, my reverse tweezers, if you can see. It makes it easier for me to do the placement where I want. And then we have the other one to do. And I want this one to go the other way. Okay. And then this one can get added to the last panel. Now, I wanted to point out, I used designer series paper on here, but I had a card that I use the little Be My Valentines for the grandkids. I did a Pinwheel card for them, and I didn't have paper to go with it, so I ended up making my own, and I just love how it turned out. In fact, that particular card was the one that finalize my decision to go ahead and share the Pinwheel card with you. I had done the Pinwheel card in the past. In fact, recently I just shared a video on Facebook of an older version I had. And while I liked it, I wasn't quite happy with it because it just didn't seem balanced to me. What I'm doing here is like, this is the front panel, and then I'm slipping this in to the next thing, and what happens is it's continuous. In other words, it looks balanced to me, and the little bit that shows out doesn't really disturb it. The colors go along. And then going to the next one, I'm going to be putting this in here, and it just, the colors still remain balanced. So it's a personal preference, I guess, but I just was bothering me, and this what made me happy. It balanced it. Okay. Another reason why I don't add these right away is because I might want to decide, oh, I want to change that around. If I said, here it is, here's the picture, and then go, happy birthday, it's time to celebrate you. Well, that's okay, but I think I like it better this way. It's time to celebrate you. Happy birthday. That makes more sense to me. And it's easier to arrange them when they're not stuck in already. Now, another thing that was mentioned when I was learning about the card was that you want to make sure about the direction. Like, for instance, you don't want to actually, I got to get this in the light so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, line this up. You don't actually want to have the card going this way and then your sentiment upside down. So that's something you need to pay attention to. You know what? I just realized who this card's going to. I've got a lot of birthdays coming up. Oops. That wasn't supposed to happen. Okay. I'll have a little bit of glue showing, and I'll have to use my glue eraser to correct it. Mostly I'm just concerned that it balances. And then we're ready for the next one. And then this is the signature, message and signature panel here. Now, I had this card go first because I felt like it would be better if you were fresh when you learn this card, because it's not difficult, except it's detailed. And here's your card. Now you have the pretty colors here that you're working with and whatever sentiments you chose. And then we have this one here. Time to celebrate you. In this case, I did a Happy Mother's Day panel, and I also did it where I set the glue. I'm pulling it off just so you can see. I used the Tombow glue, and I put dots of glue on it, which remains sticky, and I put this on here after the fact. But if I were to change my mind and say, oh, this needs to be a happy birthday card, I can take this off and replace it without damaging the paper underneath. Isn't that a cool thing? Anyway, there you go. And that's our first card. And I'm trying to see if there's anything else I wanted to tell you about it. I think we got them. Okay. Move this out of the way. Clean my desk and move on. Now I have 3 cards. Whee! Okay. This all can go together. I'm going to put one of these in here. Okay. All right. Next, I'm going to keep these 2 out. All right. Let me move my stuff away and get the next card out. At the same time, kind of clean up my mess so that when I go to reach for something, I can find it, right? Oh, let's see. Let's clean our little stamp pads here. I put them off to the side so they're fairly safe, but I do not want to put them away dirty. And I'm just kind of using this case to store them in so that they're in a safe place and won't get lost before I finish my cards. Okay. All right. Now, the next card. Oops. Let's see, I'm going to need a little cap for the water. Oh, here I go. I think, nope, not that. All right. Have to get a little cap. All right. So what I have here, this is the next card we're doing, and it's using the Nature Walk paper and dies, and I've taken this leaf die. I've die cut it out of the paper, but I went ahead before I did that and I applied cardstock to the back of the paper just to make it sturdier, because when I did this, I just felt like it was a little bit fragile, and I felt like that would give you a sturdier base to work with. So in this case, I used, white cardstock behind it just to give it a little more strength. We're working also with the negative space. We're getting 2 for 1, basically. I cut the leaves out, and now I have this opening here, and we've got the crushed curry behind it. Let me tell you, well, they have several different, they've got a specialty paper that goes along with this that's textured, but I did not have it only comes one of each kind in the pack, and it wasn't going to be enough for me to do all the cards. So I went with crushed curry, and you'll see that there's little marks on the paper, underneath, and that's what we're going to do before we go attaching the top. Now, on here, we have the various dies that can be used, and I use this for the piece of wood. On here, these are the stamps. Here's the background stamp. I mentioned in my pre-prep page to look in your stamp sets for other background textures and things like that you can use to do this. But that's not all that I did, and that's what we're going to show you. So let's move things around here. We have our card base. Okay. Have our card base, and we have our various smaller pieces, and this will go on the front. This is going to be the inside panel, and this is the piece that we're going to work with right now. I'll move that out of the way. Now, we're not gluing right away, so I'm going to put this up. I'm going to use the stamp from here. Now, I tried something. This is one of the first stamp sets I got. And I tried something so that I could keep track of where my stamps are and everything. I'm not sold on this. What I did was I took the clear piece that had all the stamps that stuck to it, and I took the piece that went over it. But what I did was I inked this up, the stamps up, and then I placed them down to put the images on the paper so that I could put them back, where they belonged. But I have since determined I'm not happy with that layout because it's a little difficult to work with. So I'm currently looking for other ideas. Okay, we're going to use 2 of these. This is the background stamp we're going to work with now. And then we're going to use, for my sentiment, You Make Me Smile. And let's see, what did I put in the inside? Oh, just a thank you, a little one. For that, I might do something different. I'll think on that. All right. So anyway, I pulled several of the stamps off. I'm just putting this back in place. And you can see quickly, okay, where the stamps are missing. That's just to help so you don't lose your stamps. Because that's always been a fear. Now, for this paper, just so you get an idea, this will be centered over the paper, and so it gives you an idea where you want your marks to at least show some of it. I use pecan pie. And let's see, I go in here, one there, maybe one down here. Okay, just random. But here's something else we're going to do. And I need a little small block to do that. I'm taking the small block. I'm tapping it on the ink pad, okay? You can't see it very much, but there's ink on there now. And what I'm going to do, and that's why I need the little cap. I'm going to take a little cap. I'm going to put a little bit of water, not much, just a little bit in that cap. And with that water, I'm going to drench the brush. Now, I need scratch. Pardon me. My cough decided to visit. I'm going to use a piece of scratch paper because this can get messy. Okay. Anyway, I take the water and I put it over here. I've applied the liquid to the acrylic cube that I stamped in the Now you can do this as much or as little as you want. Just to give it a little extra texture. And then you just clean this off. So you don't accidentally get ink on someplace you didn't want. Okay, and because there's so little water here, I can just absorb it as well. Okay, now, while I was doing that, this had a chance to dry a bit. Move this to the side. I'm going to use that in a minute. And then bring back our pieces. Now what's going to happen, when you fold these, I always check to see if it's slightly uneven. I put the shorter side to the back. Just a standard procedure. And I'm just getting an idea here of what I've done and if I like it. And it'll be fine. Maybe a smidge more in this one corner. You could use a spritzer, by the way. Stampin' Up! Sells spritzers. You could use those. All right. So that gives me an idea of what it's going to look like. This piece will be centered on the card base, but in order for this to make sure it covers all the area, I'll be putting it down this way, looking at where the die cuts are. What I've started to do here, and what I'm going to continue to do to finish it up, is I've added some dimensionals. And the purpose I'm shooting for is I want to, like in these areas here, I want to support them. And sometimes that's a little tricky. Now in this case, I cut a piece. And here's where my little take a pick tool can come in handy because we're working for small spaces. Okay, I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it and help me place that in the location I need it to be. And then here's another one. I don't know if that'll fit. Maybe a small, cut it in half. Okay, what I did was I'm cutting some of the bigger dimensionals to smaller pieces. And then I pick them up with the take a pick tool so I can place them where they need to be. I'm just trying to offer support to those narrow areas. And this one here. Okay, those seem to be the tightest spots. Okay, this one I'm going to put here. And then I went ahead and did part of this because this can be somewhat time consuming. And I was trying to save what time I could. Okay. I just want to give good support so that it doesn't bend in too much. That one I could use a small one again. Let's see. Will that work? Let's see. Come on. All right, let's see. Okay. And a small one there. I think I can do a mini. No, it's going to be too small. Okay. Part of the purpose of this is to show you you don't have to settle for the size. You can come smaller if you want. I'm taking half of a mini and putting it down here. Not quite. I found with dimensionals, you can move them if you move them right away. If you let them set too long, then they don't want to move. All right, and then I'm going to add a few more. And I'm going to put, kind of some in the corner here. So when I go to put it on the card, it doesn't bend in. Let's see. I think we've got it covered pretty well. Okay, we have all these dimensionals in here, and I have them in each of the corners. Now, this card's not going to cover the ones in the corner. So what I'm going to do is basically I'm going to remove the protective coating from these. And I've tried to demonstrate this before, but it's not my usual way of doing it. People have taken the Take-A-Picks and pick up the covers. I just use my nail. It's worked best for me. But then I use my nails for tools all the time. I was blessed with hard nails and I work them. Okay, come on. Nope. There we go. There we go. Now, some of these areas are very fine attached, which is why I added the cardstock behind it. I wanted you to have some strength in there. Now, I have seen some people where they had trouble telling whether the cover had been removed or not, taking a little marker and going over the top of this to add some color, so when they're doing something like this, they can see right away, oh, these aren't removed and those are still needing to be removed or whatever. Yeah, we got it. Okay. So, next trick. With this piece upside down, with the dimensionals facing up, with their protective coverings removed, I'm going to bring myself closer here. I'm going to place the card over the area, making sure that I cover all the open spaces. Okay. And there you have the background added. Okay, now I'm going to take the last pieces of the dimensionals off, the covers, and now I can go ahead and add this to the front of my card. Okay, let's see. We want about... Now I'm not pressing down. I'm just kind of placing approximately where I think I want it. And then I'm going to look at it. I don't know if that's not what I want. Let's come on. Okay, if it helps to go by, move over there. Oop. Yeah, there we go. We got it. Then we got it. I'm going to press it down. Okay, yay. That was the hard part. Now, the rest of this is fairly simple. I could bring in fact, I think I will. We have a new tool that's made available. Right now, it's only available to people who decide to sign up to become demonstrators as a promotional thing. You guys all know how much I loved my Stamparatus. Well, when they discontinued carrying that, they came back with another device. This is called a positioning tool. And it comes with this big sheet here, 2 magnets, and a smaller one. Now the smaller one is geared to be set on these little pegs up at the top. Okay, so if you have a progression stamp that you want to do, then you're all set up to do it. Also, if you're just working with a small stamp, you can do that. The bigger one fits over these pegs here. And the way it works is you place your paper where you want it. Now, the grid sheet is sold separately, but I like using the grid sheet. It makes me feel more reassured that I've got things in the place I want it to be. I placed it, there's these little tiny pegs at the top. I placed it up against those pegs. And then I put it, along a line to guide me as far as where I want to make sure it stays. And then I want to clean this. I covered it over here. Yeah, this feels like it's lost some of its sticky. So I'm going to clean it real quick. Okay, and then I'm going to take and I'm going to center or try to center the thank you stamp. This is a tiny stamp. Usually I use bigger stamps. Okay, that looks about right. Now, I'm going to take the cover, line it up on the pegs. Oh, before I do that, I want to move the magnets closer in. Okay, take the cover, line it up on the pegs, and then there's springs here, and you just push down, and that picks up your stamp. And what it also has, and that looks pretty darn good, is it has a grid, and you can look at the grid and see, is your stamp, especially with the clear ones, is your stamp lined up the way you want it to be? Okay, now it's picked up the stamp, and I'm going to use the pecan pie ink again, and just tap it on. Come on. All right, and then I'm going to put this back on those pegs. Now, I've set it there, but it's not touching the paper yet until I push it down. And then one of the things I like about this is that it is straight down. And while that's a small thank you, it's well placed and it's even. I like that. Okay, I'm going to clean that real quick. And then the other thing I did is I think I want Old Olive. Let's see. I'll be doing more with this in the future. but I just wanted to get you to have a chance to see how it works. And actually, because it doesn't have the borders like the other, you can work with bigger pieces of paper too, which is nice. And I need more practice with it as well. Hold on. And then somewhere in here, I'm doing it to me again. I'm burying my stuff. There we are. Okay. We can put this one back. All right. And we can, I want to take this out. All right. I'm just going to use a regular stamping block. Pick it up. And then that scratch paper I used earlier. And I'm just going to do yeah. There we go. Okay. I just decorated my inside of the card. Now, I'm also going to be doing some more stamping in a minute, but let's put this in. Okay. I'm making this a thank you card because you make me smile seems to fit that. All right. And then that was a sentiment I chose. I have the piece of wood and I have a piece of scrap and I have the embellishments. Now, you make me smile. I'm going to use the pecan pie again. Okay, and then I'm going to fussy cut it out. This will go over here, and the fussy cut will go there. And we're almost done with the card. How about that? Oops, I moved it over here. Okay. I know I'm being quiet, but I found that if I try to talk when I'm doing something like this, I might make a mistake. Okay, there we go. Fussy cut done. And then if you want, you can add this on with glue dots. You don't have to worry about. See, this die cut is porous, and if you put glue on here, the glue could seep through, which is why I chose to do a glue dot. And glue dots are pretty easy to work with. I think a couple will do just fine. And then you just kind of line it where you want it. And then I added glue dots to the back because of the same reason. We're talking porous here. Okay. Sometimes my fingers get in the way, so it's easier for me to place it using my reverse tweezers. There. Now all we need to do is add these embellishments. This set of embellishments comes with the suite. They're like faux brass hexagons. Let's see, how did I do the original? Okay. Use my original as a guide. You can place them wherever you want. You know, that's your decision. You can have them here, or you can put it over here, down here. Okay. And there's your card. Ready to go. Now I'll take a moment to put my stuff away so that we can move on to the next card without having a mess in the way. Let's see. I have these stamps I want to clean. Okay. Okay, let's see. I want this to go down there. And this to go over there. Okay. I've got the thank you I'm still missing. That's over in the new positioning tool. I'll get that later. Okay. Tools back in place. Wrapping here to the side. Stamps to the side. Okay. Ready to move on to the next card. Now the next card is making use. Oh, see, I think I tipped that. Okay, there we go. Is making use of that die cut that we did from this card. This is called the collapsible column. Now, I made this one a sympathy card. Turns out I need a few sympathy cards, but the column makes it stand out, but it's completely collapsible for mailing. And then you can just add a pop of color. Now, I did the, was it Vines and Rock, or do I have that listed here? Foxbron Pentagons. I did the embossing folder, and I should have had it with it. Let's see. Oh, there it is. It's called Stone and Vine Embossing Folder. And it's really rather cool if I can catch the light just right. It's a very textured 3-dimensional embossing folder. And I I think I can use this with a lot of garden type ideas. But it was fun, and I thought I'd share that with you with this card. Let me move. I don't want to do that. Okay. All right. Let's just move that out of the way. Now, I did another version just so you could visualize. This one I used colorful paper, and it was Valentine's Day, so I kind of was going with that. And then you have your pop of color to the side. You could do a lot more with it. It is a card that does open, and you can write your sentiment in here or your message. With thank you cards, a lot of times I leave lots of room for messages because you want to write a note saying why you're thankful. Anyway, this is just to give you an idea. It doesn't have to be all white on white. I mean, it has potential to do any number of things. I've been toying around with this idea, possibly for some of my grandkids. I've got their birthdays coming up too. So anyway, I just wanted to show you the two options that I had ready. I would have liked to have done a little more, I think, but time being as it was, you just do what you can do with what time you have. All right, so the sentiment I'm using with sympathy came from Unbounded Love. I like to buy sets with a variety of sentiments and hold on to them because sometimes the situation is just unique and you need to do what you need to do. And it's hard sometimes to find something that really fits. In your kit, you'll have your card base, which opens like this. I've already stamped my sentiment because I knew I was doing sympathy. And I put the leaves inside just kind of to protect them. And the circle will be used, again, helping to support and protect the leaves. And then we have our little slip of paper for the stamping the sentiment, and also two little tiny pieces that are going to be a mechanism we use to attach to the column. Now, for the column, we're starting with that because we have to attach it before we can add in the designer series paper. So you have your scored piece of paper. I believe it's 6 inches, if I remember correctly. Yep, 6 inches. And you have two short tabs on either side. Both of those are valley folds. You fold valley on those. And then the rest of them are all mountain folds. You do mountain folds across the middle three. And this allows for the column to come together. Okay? This will become your column that pops out. Now what I've got to do here is I have to add adhesive to these two tab ends, and that's where I need my silicone mat again, wherever I hit it. Okay. Oh, there it is, right in front of me. How many times do you lose things that are right in front of you? Okay, I'm using the silicone mat, and I'm using my tape runner. This is Stamp and Seal I'm using. And I'm running just along that edge on the one side. and then on the other side. Oop, didn't come all the way off. Okay. Let's get that end. All right. Now, I'm just going to point out that had I used the Tombow glue when I was making the pool of glue, this would have been sticky, and I would have had my paper possibly sticking to it. As it is, the tacky glue dried, and I can just peel it off. The rest I can take off later, but I just wanted to show you the fun of the silicone mat. Now, before we go any further, on this card base, move that. On this card base, we need to measure, and it is 5.5 and half of 5.5. Half of 5 is 2.5, and half of a half is another quarter. So we want to put a pencil mark, a small pencil mark, at the bottom. Your card is going to open this way. So you want to put it at the bottom, just a small pencil mark, at the 2 1/4 mark. Now you can use whatever measuring method you want to use, but you just a little mark there. We're going to use that to help you center the column. If you can see that, a little tiny mark. We're going to use that to center the column. Now what we're doing is we are folding this down, okay? And then I'm going to use this. I might have to do it the straight way. I'm going to use this to kind of visualize. You see the score line here? That's the center. And that's what I'm going to match up to that little mark. And I want to make sure that it's even on both sides and then also at the top. Okay? Well, it wasn't quite even, so let's see if I can. If you work with this quickly, when you first put it down, it doesn't stick hard, but the longer it stays down, the harder it sticks. Okay. I can get this right. A center, and I want it even. Yeah, even. Good. Okay. Now, once this is in place, we can apply the designer series paper and the embossed panels. Now, you have a choice if you want. You can put these on the front of the card, you know, and do your leaves, you know, like that, and do the embossed panels behind. That's up to you. In fact, I think I might do that just because to be different, to have a visual of both ways. Okay, so going to take, this is embossed. There's a lot of deep spots there. So in order to make it stick, I'm going to be generous with my glue, more than I usually am, because it's hard to catch with all the ups and downs. And then I'm going to bring it in here. You can fold this aside, and I can center it, leaving a little 1/8 border. Okay. And then, okay, since I'm doing it opposite of what I did there, we'll see which one I like better. Okay, I'm putting the embossed on the side here. Again, pressing it down and centering it. Okay. And then I can do the same over here. Lots of glue. Well, a few places I say use lots of glue. Okay. Center. Get your border. Okay. And then we can do this with this. Oh, I got moved over close to me. I'm supposed to show it to you guys, huh? All right. Here we go. Let's get you centered there. Up. There we go. Okay. Now we're ready for these pieces. You don't need as much glue because it's not all up and down. I put the lighter section on top just because, in my mind, the light's coming down from above. Now, remember, I'm showing you these layouts, but this isn't the only way you can use it. You can use it with different papers, depending on what you're trying to express with your card. Okay, and there you go. Now, I'm going to put some weight on that for right now. And we're back to the glue. In this case, you could, because again, this is one of those porous die cuts. You know, it cuts right through. You could just use glue dots. And I see where it's poking out beyond the circle. And the circle is there basically for support. So I would want to put my glue dots on the maybe the inner leaves, so you wouldn't have any glue on the ones that poke out. Now I showed you one way of doing it where I just took and applied it, applied the item to the tape of the glue dots. But in this case, I think those are fragile enough. I don't want to do it that way. What I want to do is I want to, in fact, this would be helpful too. Give me a good idea where, see? Okay, I can put a glue dot there. Oh, wait a minute. I feel if it, come on. There's one. Come on. I can put one there. They are sticky little buggers. There. Okay. There. There. Okay, let's get back into position here. Okay, so we're going to want one there. And there. there. And one more down here. Now notice I'm staying away from the tips. And you just got an example of how I go through my glue dots. Quickly. All right, so, and if you want to be safe about it when you're placing this, you can put it on your silicone mat. So if you misjudge, you're not stuck. I think we did good. All right. So there we go. And then with your, I'm using with sympathy because that's what this is going to be, a sympathy card. I put glue, like I knew where I was going to be putting it. So I just put it along the top center. Which is going to be over the leaves. I didn't want to push my luck here. Okay. That's good. All right. All right. And see, the leaves stay within the borders of the card. Now, the mechanism, that little tiny pieces in here that make you go, what? It's amazing what you can do with a little bit. Now, I used tear tape because I want it to hold well. And actually, there's a plus to having the plain DSP on the front because you don't have the up-down problem. So that's something to think about. Now, the other thing you think about is how do I find the end of the DS or the tear tape? All right. So you have, it's a 1-inch piece that's 3/4 of an inch tall on both of these. And I'm folding them. And what's going to happen with the folding is the folded ends are going to meet in the middle. Okay? So we're going to be gluing them down, meeting in the middle, but lined up together. So we're going to put tear tape on both sides, but we're only going to remove it on the side that's going to be on the bottom to begin with, because we want to work with that first. So the thing about tear tape is that you can tear it to fit. And if you do exceed, you can either trim it off or you can fold it back on after you peel off the protective cover. Going to do both sides. Yeah, I just want to make sure you can still see what I was doing. I get things close to me, and then I thought, oh, wait a minute, you have to be able to see that. Tear tape is very sticky. Sometimes you need very sticky. Okay. So I'm going to use a burnish this well. Now you can burnish it with your fingernail or burnish it with your bone folder. I'm going to take this side and I'm going to peel off the protective cover. And I don't know if you can see that, but there's a little bit extra there. I'm folding it back on top of itself. Okay. That's one side. And then the other side. Some people have trouble getting the cover off of their tear tape, in which case you can just simply use your take a pick tool, and it works really well. Usually I'm fine with just my nails, but and then we're going to take this and we're going to determine its placement. And so we want the mechanism to be kind of like in the center of that. So I'm putting this in here, right up next to that line, not over it, just up next to it. And the same thing with this side, just next to it. Give it a good press. And then I'm going to take and remove the protective coating. See, catch me using my nails again. All right. And then I'm going to take and place this over top of that. Boom. There you have it. Your card, except for the inside, is done. It'll stand up. It'll fold flat for mailing. And it's just another fun element. I do like that embossing folder a lot. I really feel like it makes an interesting card. Here's the two comparative. Which way do you like better? Do you like the color on top or just the straight white with the embossing folder? And there you have it. Oh, wait a minute. We forget one more thing. The embellishments. The fun part, right? I changed the embellishments. I wanted something, a little, you might say, cheerier. Okay, come on. You can place them wherever you like. And there you have it. Okay, that's your third card. Let's move this stuff away and go to our fourth card. And then I have a sneak peek to show you after the cards are done. I just got. All right, so picked up some glue here. Okay, this is it's down here somewhere. Oh, there it is. This is the double flap fun fold. And I had a different version. I think I showed you earlier. Same layout, just different papers. Totally different. I like this paper because it's got all the colors that work well for spring, for Easter, and it's just a fun, uplifting card. Okay, I better follow my directions on this because there's a little trick to this one. You have the 2 square pieces. They will be layered, but you don't do that right away. You have the inside piece and you have the outside pieces, and this is where the surprise comes in. Okay, reading your directions. We've taken the card base, we've folded it. Again, I determine if there's a side that's a little bit longer, that's going to be my front side. But there's a difference here. Okay, what's going to happen is we are going to cut off part of the card base. I take my handy dandy trimmer. And we're going to cut off 1 1/4 inches off the edge of the front of the card. In other words, this is the front of the card. I'm taking it off of here. And for that, I'm using this side of my trimmer to measure 1 1/4. Now, there's the 1 inch and there's 1 1/4. I'm bringing it straight up so the card lays flat against the top. That's how I'm making sure that it's straight. It's so easy to go crooked. Don't throw this away. We're going to use it. Now we can take, let's see, how did I do this? I don't want to, yeah. We're going to take this larger piece of designer series paper and glue it to the front. That's easy enough. Oh, by the way, the back of this paper is gold foil flowers, and you can color that if you'd like. I haven't tried that yet, but it could. I've seen a card where they did it, and it was very pretty. This paper is not directional, and I'm just looking to see that I got it centered. Even. Okay. Now, you're going to take the cardstock strip and you're going to shorten it to 4 1/2 inches. Four and 1/2. Then we're going to score the strip at 3 1/2. So at 3 1/2, move that cutting blade away. 3 1/2. I'm going to score it. Okay, fold it. All right. Now for this card, I included tear tape with the pack. The reason I did that is because you want this to be a strong hold. So you're going to apply the tear tape along the folded edge and tear it free and along a second strip, and you're going to have excess. Okay. And then burnish it well. Okay. Now what's going to happen is we are going to be adhering this to this side of the card along the edge. And this flap will be coming over here. And what's going to happen with this flap is we are going to take and center that square of cardstock, which is what I'm kind of doing now to see where I really want to place the mechanism. Let's see if it got pretty much centered. No, let it down a little more. This comes down a little more. Okay. So if you want, you can, to guide you, put a little pencil mark where you want this to go so that you can place it where you intend to place it. This needs to be put down first because what's going to happen is after we glue that down, this is going to cover it over. So we've got the tear tape. We've burnished it well. We're going to remove the protective covering, and using the guide of that mark, I don't know how well you can see it. That mark, I'm going to bring it up next to the edge and have it line up with the edge and then press it down. Okay. Now we can take this and add the glue. And cover it over, leaving about 1/8 of an inch border. Okay, there you are. Now the next trick, remembering how we want this to fit. Well, you don't need to glue all the way out here, but you do need to put glue in the strip. So what I did was I put glue well within the bounds, and I was generous with it, but I put it well within the bounds. And then I make sure that I've got the square piece centered on the card. And then I brought this over to adhere it. Give it a few minutes to do that. In fact, what we can do while we're waiting for that to adhere, well, you may have already stamped yours. I'm going to use my mat. Take some of my trash away. Best wishes. Let's see. I used this. Did I leave it? Yeah, I did. Okay. Okay, and I used clips of coral for my ink because clips of coral is in the DSP. So I ink it up. I'm going to bring this closer to me to help me line it up. And just press it down. Okay, there's the problem. This is why the Stamparatus or the positioning tool is so good, because that's too pale. Okay, let's move over and get the positioning tool out again. Now, my experience with this has been, oops, I don't want that. I don't want ink on my thing. Has been that small pieces of paper don't work so well. But I think it's more stable with the big. So let's try this. I'm releasing the magnets because it had pulled up. I want okay, I'm going to use this as a guide. I want this. Let's see, I'm right next to that, but right next to that dotted line there. I'm going to put the magnet there. And I'm going to put the magnet there. And hopefully this will fit in between. But I got to clean it so it doesn't make a mark before I'm ready. I moved everything around. There it is. Okay. Now let's go this way. You know what? I think this is a little tricky because it's so small. I think what I'm going to do is going to take a piece of scrap paper. Come on. Okay. And what we're going to do, we're going to do another little trick. Okay, I'm going to take a piece of scrap paper. I'm lining it up against the 3-inch mark and these little pegs at the top. And then I know that it will fit easily here without a problem. I'll move the magnets closer to give it a firmer hold. That's the problem with having smaller pieces. Then I'm going to take this and I'm going to pick it up. Okay, now I need to ink it up. And the thing of it is, I'm going to probably need to do this more than once. So, goes back in the pegs, goes straight down, goes straight up. Let's ink it up again. Go straight down. Boom. Let's see. Oh, that's fine. Okay. We're good. We're good. We're good. We're good. Now, I'm going to move you to the side. And I'm going to do a die cut. And I'm going to close this so we don't have an accident. Close my stamp pad. And I'm going to bring in my little mini die cut machine. Now the die I'm using came from Thoughtful Expressions. You may recognize this one. I used not only this die, but I also used the one right with it for the leaves that I embellished and already die cut for you. Now this needs to be trimmed down a little bit because it's too wide. Oops. There. Now it will fit. And for my mini die cut machine, I have my plate 1 and my cutting plate 3. And in order for this to work properly, it's a thing with this particular machine, is when I place the other cutting plate on top, it has the middle plate is pulled back about 1/2 inch so it'll feed through. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to center it. I'm just going to hold it in place. When you're just cutting shapes, you don't have to worry about it so much. But when you're cutting an actual design or a picture, it's something you need to consider. Okay, now you see how I put that. Okay. Gonna fight me today. All right, here we go. Feeding it through. Okay. The mini machine is handy because it's tiny. I still love my big one. Another possibility in using the new placement would be to use this as a guide of the positioning tool. I'm getting used to saying that. Use this as a guide in it and then just place it here and then have the magnets close, but you don't have to be as close. But this works. Okay. I'm going to wait on that. Okay, we're ready for this. Ready for this. Okay, and the die I want to put away. I try to be really good about putting my dies away because I don't like losing them either, and they're easy to lose. They're so small. The plus side is that they are magnetic. You can get a magnet and catch them. Okay, but you see the difference between the two. That just wasn't going to work. Okay, here we are. Back to the card. Now this has had a chance to dry, and you can take and position your card how you want. I'm thinking I'm going to put the flower up towards the top and then put this over here. Let's see. I planned on using this embellishment. Let's see how it looks. Do I want it maybe coming down this way? Do I like it like that? Do I want it like this? No, I don't really want to hide the flower. I think I want to stick with down here. Okay, I'm going to put this up on dimensionals, but first we're going to glue this piece down, centered. I just wanted to get an idea of where I was going to put it so I knew where I was going to be putting the sentiment. Put it on, centering it, leaving that border. And then back with the dimensionals. The dimensionals gives me space to put the little leaves underneath. And okay. So here I'm just going to put a little dot of glue in there. Try not to get too much. Use my positioning tool. I'm going to be putting it in underneath, so that goes that way. Okay. And then you put your little embellishments where you would like. See, I did this a little differently. Let's see. I don't press them down hard at first when I'm figuring out where I want to put them. I just kind of take a look and see what do I like. You know, do I like that? Do I like this? Sometimes I move them around, trying different things. After I have figured out, okay, I like it that way, then I'll press them down further. Okay, and then you have your inside piece, which will go right in here. And I decorated, wherever I put it, there it is. I decorated my inside piece with a flower, and I put happy birthday, and I brought it right up next to the strip here. So I'm going to glue that in later, but because I'm going to add a sediment and things, and I'm thinking I need plenty of birthdays, so we'll get to that. But anyway, that's your fourth card. Now, I wanted to show you another sneak peek. I was, because I'm a demonstrator, I'm able to order things before they're available to the public, which is how I got the paper we used in our first card. This is a new set I just got, and I wanted to show it to you. You'll be seeing pictures eventually of cards used to make. It's called Delicate Whispers. And they've got the dies and they've got the stamps. I've seen, because I'm a demonstrator, I get to see things in the demonstrator planning place that other people have done. And I just thought it was so pretty. Now, this is not my usual color combination that I would think of. But the paper, okay, there's two secrets. You can actually, the foiling on it is not gold. They're calling it bronze. So I guess they're going to be offering a bronze foil in the future. And the other thing, and I'm going to guess this might be it, there's a color they listed called hydrangea hue. And I don't know if it's this color or not, but I think that's a hint at maybe the new colors that are coming out. Anyway, this is one of the designs, and it's got a very mild back design. That this is a more foiled bronze, and then a grayish mottled gray, and then now I believe that the dies might cut out some of these. Let me look at them. Let's see. I'll have to check it further. But anyway, the dies are pretty intricate, and it's a very detailed set. Anyway, this is that pretty blue and the beiges and the green, mossy meadow green. And that's a fun design there too. And then this is the dark. Again, I think it's Secret Sea. Let me look. Yes, Secret Sea with the bronze. Look at the back of it. Isn't that gorgeous? There's no foiling on it, but I think it's absolutely beautiful. And then here's some more of that feathery frond, if you will. And oh, Isn't this pretty? I think I have that upside down. Isn't that pretty? Like I said, it's not color combinations I would have thought of, but I think it's just absolutely gorgeous. It has the mossy meadow on the back. I'm toying around with the idea of doing a one-sheet wonder using this one. Oh, anyway, I just thought it was so pretty, and I thought I'd share it with you because you guys can't see it yet, except through somebody like me. So, anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's cards. Oh, before I forget, if any of you earned bonus coupons, be sure to redeem them before the end of February. Last month, we could make purchases and earn coupons, and we need to redeem them before the end of February. I already redeemed mine. That's how I got some of that stuff I just showed you. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the class. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up. And I hope if you have any questions, you can always contact me. And have a good week. I hope you have a lot of fun with these cards. And I would absolutely love to see pictures of your versions if you could. That tickles me no end when I get to see what you guys create. So, anyway, have a good week. Thank you for coming. I enjoyed sharing these fun cards with you, and I hope they bring as much joy to you as they've brought me. Have a good day.